Kai had never felt so out of place in his life. The corridors of the Zyran starship stretched endlessly before him, glowing with soft alien light that shifted in color with every step. The walls hummed faintly, almost as if the ship itself were alive. Everywhere he looked, strange symbols floated in the air, moving in patterns that made his head spin. He had trained for years to represent humanity to alien civilizations, but nothing could have prepared him for this level of sophistication. Every footstep echoed against the polished floor, a small reminder that he was far from home, far from Earth, and far from anything familiar. The instructions from the Royal Council had been clear: avoid the princess's chambers. They were off-limits to all visitors except those summoned. But curiosity gnawed at him. Humans had a tendency to push boundaries, Kai thought bitterly to himself, and this was no exception. One door in particular drew his attention. It was massive, carved from an unknown dark metal, and etched with twisting designs that seemed to move when he stared too long. Something about it felt alive, as though it were calling to him. He hesitated. The warnings echoed in his mind, sharp and urgent. But the pull was stronger than caution. Slowly, almost reverently, Kai reached for the handle and pushed. The door opened with a soft hiss, revealing a room bathed in gentle light, warm yet strange. For a moment, he thought he had made a mistake. The room was empty, yet it was impossibly beautiful. The walls shimmered like liquid glass, reflecting light in soft waves. In the center of the room stood a holographic figure. At first, he thought it was a mirror. But as he stepped closer, he realized it was not his reflection in glass, it was a projection, a living image that mimicked his movements perfectly. Every step he took, it stepped. Every gesture he made, it copied. Kai's heart pounded. He could feel his pulse in his ears as he whispered, "What? What is this?" A soft voice, melodic and calm, answered from somewhere in the shadows. "You see yourself," it said. "Because you are more than a visitor to us. You are exceptional." Kai spun around, searching for the source. A figure emerged from the corner of the room, tall, graceful, her skin a soft shimmer of blue, her eyes like twin galaxies. The alien princess Lyra stood before him, her gaze fixed not on him, but on the projection that mirrored him perfectly. "You are human," she said, voice gentle yet commanding. "And humans are rare in this galaxy. Even rarer are those who carry the potential you carry." Kai swallowed hard, trying to steady himself. He had always considered himself ordinary, a diplomat, trained in negotiation and etiquette, nothing more. But now, facing this alien princess, seeing a version of himself that seemed alive, something inside him stirred. Fear mixed with awe, confusion with pride. Lyra tilted her head slightly, as if studying him for a hidden answer. "Do you understand what you are seeing?" she asked softly. Kai shook his head. I think it's me, but I don't know why. Is this some kind of trick?" She smiled faintly, almost sadly. "It is no trick. This is a reflection of your choices, your courage, and your ability to rise when others falter. It shows what you are capable of, even when you doubt yourself. Most beings cannot see themselves this way. You can." Kai's hands clenched at his sides. His mind raced. Could he truly be more than ordinary? Could a human, so small and fragile compared to these powerful beings, really hold the potential to impress the Zyran Empire? His chest tightened with a strange mix of fear and hope. The room seemed to pulse with energy, drawing him in, daring him to step closer, to embrace the impossible. He took a deep breath, letting the strange hum of the ship sink into him. Whatever lay ahead, whatever challenge this strange projection represented, he knew one thing: the moment he walked into this room, nothing would ever be the same. And for the first time since leaving Earth, Kai felt that he was exactly where he was meant to be. Kai's mind was still racing from the shock of seeing himself in the hologram. Every movement he made, the projection mirrored with perfect precision, as if it were alive. He took a cautious step forward, unsure whether to speak or flee. His pulse pounded, not just from fear, but from a strange sense of wonder. The room felt alive, almost aware of him, and the presence of the alien princess made the air thick with something he couldn't name: curiosity, anticipation, maybe even judgment. Lyra stepped closer, her movement graceful, silent, almost floating. Her eyes, vast and shimmering like stars, never left him. "You are not here by accident," she said. Her voice was soft, melodic, but carried authority that made Kai instinctively straighten his posture. Most beings would flee from a projection of themselves. Most would panic. You are different. Kai swallowed hard. "I don't understand," he admitted. Why am I seeing this? Why am I here? The princess extended a hand toward the hologram, and the light rippled as if responding to her touch. This projection is more than a copy. It is a reflection of your choices, your courage, and your essence. We capture what we see in those we respect. You are rare, Kai. Humans rarely survive contact with our people. Rarer still are those who leave a mark on our hearts and minds. Kai shook his head slowly. I'm just a human. I negotiate, I talk, I follow instructions. I don't do anything extraordinary. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile, the kind that seemed to hold centuries of knowledge. Extraordinary is not always loud or violent. Extraordinary can be quiet, thoughtful, observant, the ability to act when others hesitate. That is why you are here. That is why you are reflected. Kai felt warmth rise in his chest, mixed with disbelief. The idea that an entire alien civilization could regard humans as more than fragile creatures, more than negotiators or diplomats, made his stomach tighten. He had always assumed that humans were ordinary. Even proud humans often believe themselves small in the galaxy. And yet, here was a princess telling him the opposite, telling him that his potential mattered. The hologram shifted, moving independently for the first time. It stepped forward, mirroring a gesture Kai hadn't made. Its eyes, identical to his, locked onto him, as if urging him to understand something he had not yet seen. Kai felt a strange connection, like looking at a version of himself unafraid, unhesitant, fully alive in a way he had never known. Lyra's voice broke the silence. We do not allow outsiders into the heart of our empire lightly. But you, your spirit, your instincts, your courage have earned this moment. What you see is not a trick. It is an opportunity to see yourself as you truly are, and to prove that your species is capable of greatness. Kai's breath caught. Prove? How? The princess studied him intently, her gaze softening. That is not for me to dictate. But soon, you will face choices that will test your courage and your judgment. This reflection will guide you. It is both a mirror and a mentor. But understand this, what you see is not separate from you. It is part of you. Your actions, your instincts, your courage. All are alive in that image. Kai's head swirled with thoughts, fear, and a strange surge of pride. He had always wanted to make a difference, to show that humans could stand among the stars, not as weaklings, but as equals. And now, standing in the princess's room, staring at a projection of himself that seemed more alive than he felt, he realized he had been given a chance. A small, almost involuntary smile tugged at his lips. For the first time in weeks, far from Earth and far from anything familiar, he felt seen, truly seen. Not just as a human, not just as a diplomat, but as someone capable of more than he had ever imagined. Lyra's eyes softened as she observed his expression. Remember this moment, Kai. You are not ordinary. You are capable. And soon, the universe will demand that you prove it. Kai nodded, swallowing hard, a mix of fear and excitement coursing through him. He didn't know what lay ahead, but one thing was certain. His life, and perhaps the fate of humans in the galaxy, would never be the same again. Kai could feel his heart beating faster than it ever had before. The room felt alive, almost as if the walls themselves were watching him. The hologram of himself shifted slightly, stepping closer with a kind of quiet authority. It was no longer just a reflection, it was almost a guide, showing him possibilities he hadn't realized existed. Lyra moved to stand beside him, her gaze steady, her expression unreadable. Kai, she said softly, we do not bring outsiders into the core of our empire without reason. The galaxy is not kind. Decisions must be made, courage must be proven, and strength must be tested. Are you prepared to see what you are truly capable of? Kai swallowed hard, his throat dry. I think so, he said, though doubt gnawed at the edges of his courage. He had spent his life negotiating, mediating conflicts, and following instructions. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for this moment. Lyra's eyes softened. This is not about strength in battle. It is about choices, instinct, and clarity. You will be tested in ways that will challenge everything you thought you knew about yourself. Your reflection will guide you, but it cannot act for you. Only you can choose. The hologram moved forward, its hands extending to a console that Kai hadn't even noticed before. Alien glyphs glowed faintly under its fingers, symbols he could not comprehend. But as the hologram moved, Kai instinctively mirrored the actions. His own hands followed the projection, pressing glowing panels, turning levers, and moving controls as if the knowledge had been inside him all along. A shiver ran down his spine. I don't know what any of this does, he whispered. I don't even understand the symbols. Lyra's gaze softened but remained firm. Understanding is not required. Action is. Instinct is stronger than knowledge when faced with uncertainty. Trust yourself. Kai's pulse pounded in his ears. Every movement felt critical. If he failed, he didn't know what would happen, but the weight of responsibility pressed on him. He realized in that moment that this test was not about technology, not about alien symbols or strange consoles. It was about him. About his courage, his ability to think, and his willingness to act when everything was unknown. Minutes stretched into eternity. Sweat ran down his back as he followed the hologram's guidance, every instinct screaming, every muscle tensed. The room seemed to hum louder with energy, reacting to his every decision. And then, just when he thought he could not continue, the humming softened, and the consoles glowed steadily. No longer threatening, Kai exhaled, his knees nearly giving out. He looked at the hologram, which now seemed to bow slightly, almost in approval. He had completed the first test. Lyra stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. You acted when others would have frozen, she said. You trusted yourself when there was nothing but uncertainty. That is what makes humans extraordinary. You are rare, Kai. Rare enough to be entrusted with greater challenges than most beings could ever face. Kai felt a warmth spreading through his chest, a mix of relief, pride, and disbelief. He had survived, not by strength of weapon or alien power, but by trusting himself. By listening to instincts he didn't even know he had. For the first time, he felt the weight of possibility, the promise that humans were more than he or anyone had imagined. Lyra's eyes softened, a rare smile tugging at her lips. Remember this feeling, Kai. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act despite it. This is only the beginning. The galaxy will demand much more from you. But now you know that you are capable. Kai nodded, still trembling, still overwhelmed, but feeling something he had never felt before: belonging. The alien princess, the hologram, the glowing room, it all had changed him. He realized that humans were not weak, that they could rise in the face of impossible odds, and that he himself could be the proof. He took a deep breath, feeling the hum of the starship beneath his feet, and whispered to himself, I can do this. Kai's hands were still trembling when the lights in the room suddenly flickered. A low, warning hum filled the air, growing louder, deeper, vibrating through the floor and walls. The hologram froze, its eyes his own eyes locking onto his with a silent warning. Kai's heart jumped into his throat. Something was wrong. Lyra moved with sudden urgency, her long fingers pressing panels Kai hadn't even noticed before. The energy core, she said sharply. It is destabilizing. If containment fails, this entire deck could be destroyed. You must act. Kai froze. Energy cores? Destabilizing? He had no idea how to operate alien technology at this level. His training had prepared him for negotiations, for diplomacy, but not for a life-or-death emergency on a starship run by an advanced alien civilization. He wanted to step back, to retreat to safety. But the hologram mirrored his hesitation, then slowly raised its hand. Urging him forward, You can do this, Lyra said quietly, though her voice carried an urgency that made his chest tighten. I believe in you. Trust yourself. Follow your instincts. Kai swallowed hard, his mind racing. He had never felt such fear before. The room shook, alarms blaring as red warning lights streaked across the walls. Sparks flew from one of the nearby consoles. His instinct screamed at him to run, but the thought of failing, of letting countless lives be destroyed, frozen in place. He glanced at the hologram. It moved confidently, guiding him toward a series of controls, pressing buttons and adjusting levers that seemed completely alien. Kai's hands hesitated above the panels, unsure what to do. But something deep inside stirred, the courage he had discovered during the first test. He realized that this was no longer about knowledge or experience. This was about trust in himself, trust in the instincts that had guided him so far. He reached out and pressed the first glowing panel. The hum of the core responded slightly, but the room continued to shake. He followed the hologram's movements step by step, turning levers and pressing sequences of symbols. Every instinct, every decision, felt amplified. One wrong move could be catastrophic. Lyra's eyes never left him, her hand hovering near a console in case intervention was needed. You are stronger than you know, Kai, she said. You are human. That means you have a resilience that cannot be predicted. Use it. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Sweat ran down Kai's face as sparks and alarms threatened to overwhelm him. The hologram moved smoothly, guiding without words, teaching without explanation. Kai mirrored every motion, trusting the invisible thread that connected him to this strange, impossible projection. Finally, with a deep breath, Kai pressed the final lever. The hum of the energy core shifted, stabilizing, the red lights fading into calm white. The room stopped shaking. The alarms cut out. Silence fell, except for the soft, steady hum of the starship. Kai sank to his knees, exhausted, chest heaving, hands trembling. The hologram paused, giving him a small nod of approval before dissolving into light. He had done it. He had faced the unknown, trusted himself, and survived. Lyra stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was warm, grounding, and her eyes shone with pride. You acted when others would have frozen. You did not know, yet you chose to act. That is what makes humans remarkable. You are rare, Kai. Rare enough to be trusted with challenges that most beings would never survive. Kai felt something swell inside him, relief, pride, awe, and something new, a sense of belonging. He realized in that moment that humans were not weak, not fragile, not insignificant. They could rise to meet impossible challenges, adapt, and persevere. And he, a single human among the stars, had proven it. Lyra's voice softened. This was only the first real test. The galaxy will demand more from you. But now you know you are capable. Kai nodded, still trembling, still overwhelmed, but stronger than he had ever felt. He had faced fear, uncertainty, and near destruction, and he had acted. And somewhere deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. Kai sat on the polished floor of the princess's chamber, his hands still shaking from the intensity of the crisis. The hum of the ship was steady now, calm and reassuring, but his mind was far from peaceful. Every nerve in his body was alert, yet a strange calm had settled over him. He had faced danger, uncertainty, and failure, or what could have been failure, and had survived. But as the adrenaline faded, a new feeling emerged, doubt. Lyra approached slowly, her movements fluid like water moving across the room. She did not speak at first, merely watching him with eyes that seemed to see everything, even the parts of himself he had never confronted. Kai felt a shiver run down his spine, but it was not fear, it was awe. He had never been observed with such intensity before, not even by humans. You did well, she said finally, her voice soft, yet carrying the weight of truth. You acted when others would have faltered. You trusted yourself when instinct told you the way. Kai shook his head, unable to hide his insecurity. I just followed the hologram. It guided me. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm not a hero. I'm just... His voice trailed off. Just human, Lyra finished for him, and there was no judgment in her tone. Only understanding. Yes, but that is exactly why you succeeded. Humans are extraordinary not because of power, but because of courage, creativity, and adaptability. You act when others freeze. You see paths where others see walls. You are capable of what most species cannot even imagine. Kai swallowed hard. Her words struck him deeper than any praise he had ever received. He had always believed humans were fragile, weak, and insignificant on the galactic scale. And yet here was a princess of a species far older and more advanced, telling him otherwise. He felt something swell inside him, a mixture of pride, hope, and something like belonging. Lyra extended her hand, a gesture that seemed both gentle and commanding. Come, stand. Look at yourself again. Kai hesitated, then obeyed. The hologram had vanished after the crisis, but he could still feel its echo in the room, a silent reminder of his courage. Lyra led him to a reflective surface, a liquid metal wall that shimmered like water. As he looked, he saw not just his human form, but something more. A confidence, a determination, a spark that he had never recognized in himself, all mirrored in the alien light. You see now, Lyra whispered, that the reflection was never separate from you. It only showed what was already inside. You carry potential that even you cannot fully grasp yet. That is why I trust you. Kai felt a lump in his throat. The princess's gaze was unwavering, but it was kind. He had never been looked at this way, as though his very existence mattered, as though he could make a difference in a universe that often seemed so vast and uncaring. He realized that this connection, this recognition, was rare, and it made him feel alive. I don't know what to say, he admitted, voice shaking. I never thought humans could be seen this way. Lyra smiled, a gentle curve of her lips that seemed to light the room. It is not about what you think of yourselves. It is about what you do when faced with the impossible. Humans carry hope and courage in ways that even the galaxy cannot predict. And you, Kai, have proven that in moments that would crush others. Kai took a deep breath, letting her words sink in. For the first time, he truly felt the weight of possibility, the responsibility of being human in a universe that expected little from his species. But he also felt pride in who he was, and what humans could achieve. Lyra's hand rested lightly on his shoulder. Remember this feeling. Remember that you are capable, that your choices matter, and that courage is not the absence of fear. The galaxy will test you further, Kai, and you will rise, as humans always do. Kai nodded slowly, feeling a quiet strength settle in his chest. He had survived the first real challenge, forged a connection with the princess, and glimpsed the potential within himself. The journey was far from over. But he finally understood one truth. Humans, no matter how small, could shine in the darkest corners of the universe. And in that moment, Kai felt ready for whatever lay ahead. The calm that had settled over the chamber lasted only a few heartbeats. Suddenly, a loud klaxon echoed through the corridors of the starship. Red emergency lights flooded the room, and the floor trembled beneath Kai's feet. The energy core was stable now, yes, but something else had shifted. A deep vibration ran through the walls, and the hum of the ship felt wrong. As if it were warning of an unseen threat, Lyra's eyes sharpened instantly, and her usually graceful movements became quick and precise. Kai, she said urgently, this is not part of the test. Something or someone has entered the ship. It is hostile. Kai felt a cold rush of fear. He had faced uncertainty and the unknown with courage before, but a real threat? He had no weapons, no armor, no experience in combat. All he had was himself, and the faint, steady echo of the hologram that had guided him through the earlier crisis. Lyra moved closer, her hand brushing his arm. You have proven you can act when others freeze. Now you must do the same under threat. I will help, but the choices are yours. Trust yourself, Kai. The corridors beyond the chamber shimmered as if the ship itself were alive, reacting to the presence of intruders. Shadows moved too fast to see clearly. A sharp metallic sound echoed from the hallway, sending a shiver down Kai's spine. His instincts screamed at him to run, but Lyra's gaze held him in place. She did not push him, she let him decide, and that decision weighed heavily on his shoulders. Kai drew a deep breath. I can do this, he whispered, though his voice wavered. His hands tightened into fists as he stepped forward. Every step felt heavier than the last, but with each movement, he remembered the reflection, the hologram that had guided him, that had shown him what he was capable of. It was not separate from him. It was him. The intruder appeared suddenly, a massive armored alien, its form distorted and frightening, gliding toward them with deadly precision. Lyra's hand went to a control panel, activating energy barriers and warning systems, but she did not fight directly. She watched Kai, trusting him to act. Kai's mind raced. He had no combat training, but he had strategy, observation, and human adaptability. He watched the alien's movements, predicting its trajectory, guiding Lyra to deploy barriers and traps at just the right moments. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and every instinct screamed at him to fail, but he didn't. He trusted himself. Minutes passed like hours. Sparks flew from panels, the air shimmered with energy, and the intruder's attacks grew faster and more violent. And yet, Kai's mind stayed sharp, his decisions precise. The echo of the hologram guided him, not as a crutch, but as a reflection of what he was capable of. Finally, with one swift sequence of actions, Kai triggered the ship's containment fields, pinning the intruder and immobilizing it. The red lights faded, and the hum of the ship returned to its steady rhythm. Kai sank to the floor, breathless, trembling, but victorious. He had faced a real threat, something he had no reason to survive, and yet he had acted, adapted, and won. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes softening with relief and pride. You see now, Kai, she said, her voice gentle, that courage is more than facing danger. It is facing the unknown when nothing prepares you. Humans carry resilience that the galaxy often underestimates. And you are a perfect example of that. Kai's chest swelled with something he had never felt before: pride, awe, and an unshakable belief in what humans could achieve. He realized that fear was not weakness. It was a guide, a signal that something mattered. And when combined with courage, it became power. He looked at Lyra, her expression calm yet filled with admiration, and whispered, I understand now. Humans, we can rise to anything. She smiled, a quiet, shining smile that seemed to light the chamber. Yes, Kai, and now the galaxy will know it too. Kai sank to the floor of the chamber, exhausted but alive. The ship had stabilized, the intruder contained, and the hum of the starship returned to its calm rhythm. His clothes were damp with sweat, his hands were scraped from pressing alien controls, and his heart still pounded from the intensity of the challenge. Yet, beneath the fatigue, he felt a spark of something he had never known. Triumph. Lyra stepped closer, her expression softer than ever. You have done more than survive, Kai. You have shown what humans are capable of when fear is faced with courage. The galaxy often underestimates your species, but today you proved it wrong. Kai swallowed hard. He had always thought humans were ordinary, fragile, too small to matter in the vast universe. And yet, after all the tests, the reflection, the crises, and the real threat he had faced, he felt a surge of pride unlike anything before. He had not just acted, he had adapted, learned, and thrived under pressure. Lyra moved to the holographic console, and with a graceful gesture, she activated the projection once more. Kai watched, awestruck, as the hologram of himself appeared, but now it was different. It no longer simply mirrored his movements. It glowed softly, radiating strength, intelligence, and courage. It was him, but the best version of him, the version he had unlocked through every choice he had made. This is who you are, Kai, Lyra said, her voice quiet but firm. Not what you think you are. Not what others say you are. The reflection shows your potential, your resilience, your heart. You acted when it mattered most, and in doing so, you became extraordinary. Kai's throat tightened. He looked at the hologram, then back at Lyra. I don't know what to say, he admitted. I never imagined humans could matter like this. Lyra's eyes glimmered with something that felt almost like warmth. Humans do matter. You have proven that today. Even when we doubted, even when the galaxy doubted, you have shown that courage, hope, and action can change everything. That is why you are here. That is why you were chosen to see this, to rise, to be human at your fullest. Kai exhaled slowly, letting the words sink in. For the first time, he understood something profound. Humans were not weak. They were not fragile. They were capable of rising, adapting, and shining in the darkest moments of the universe. And he, a single human, had become proof. The hologram shimmered, then dissolved into particles of light, leaving Kai standing in the chamber, his heart pounding and his mind racing. Lyra stepped closer, her hand brushing lightly against his arm. Remember this feeling, she said softly. Remember that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act despite it. Humans carry that courage in ways few species ever can. You, Kai, are the living proof of it. Tears welled in Kai's eyes, not from fear, not from pain, but from awe. The princess, the ship, the hologram, and the challenges he had faced had shown him something he could never unsee. Humans could rise above, achieve beyond expectation, and become more than ordinary. He took a deep breath, feeling the hum of the ship beneath his feet, the warmth of Lyra's presence, and the echo of the reflection that had guided him. A sense of calm certainty settled over him. Humans mattered. Humans could shine. And he had just proven it. Lyra smiled, the kind of smile that felt like light breaking through darkness. You are extraordinary, Kai. Never forget it. The galaxy has seen it, and now it will remember. Kai nodded, his chest swelling with pride and hope. For the first time in his life, he truly understood what it meant to be human. Not just flesh and bone, not just weak or small, but capable, courageous, and brilliant. He had walked into a room by mistake, and in doing so, he had discovered the greatest truth of all. Humans could rise to meet the impossible. And as he stood there, looking at Lyra, at the ship, at the universe stretching endlessly beyond, Kai smiled. The reflection, the test, the challenge, they had all shown him the same thing. Humans were extraordinary. And now, so was he.